So, hello, welcome to the second episode of Aure's Notes podcast. Today, we're welcoming Yasser. Yasser has built a tourism company in Europe. It was based in Brussels. It is still based in Brussels, and he's going to tell us how he did it. It's a very, very interesting story. So, I'm really looking forward to it. So, hi, Yasser, welcome.
Hi, man. How's it going? Thank you for
Yeah,
inviting me.
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. So, can you please introduce yourself? Say where you're from, your background, and well, how you ended up in Brussels? Because it's kind of a crazy story.
I'm Yasser. Everybody calls me Jazz. And I'm actually originally from Venezuela. I grew up there. I lived my entire life there. And I even tried to make my studies there. I tried to, at this actually the first semester of electrical engineering, electronics engineering, sorry. But then, of course, this is something that probably everybody knows now. Venezuela is a very complicated country. It was already back then when I was living in Venezuela. I could notice already that there was pretty much no opportunity. So I decided to
Wait,
leave.
which year was it?
That was in 2009. The
Okay.
2009, yeah, when I left Venezuela. I moved first to Buenos Aires, Argentina, because I had family there. So it was like a nice first step to get out of the country. And when I was in Argentina, I was pretty much just trying different things. I always call it my hippie period because I also tried to study music. I did some theater. I learned to play the guitar. And at some point, I considered that that was going to be my career. But then I suddenly started working on sales. And yeah, I started doing well. I was working for kind of like a luxury kind of like fashion store, and
Okay.
and that's when I was able to make good money. I was very young, of course, and I saved enough money for me to quit my job and travel around Europe. And traveling around Europe is when I met a Belgian girl that suddenly, yeah, got me hooked and convinced me to move to Brussels, and that's how I ended up here.
Okay. And then in Brussels, you had to find something to do, right?
Yes, actually, it was very difficult once I moved to Brussels because I couldn't find anything. The first plan was, of course, to learn the language, to learn French. So I was immediately started like a integration course, they call it. And the idea is that you study French very intensively every single day, 5 days a week for 4 or 5 hours a day. But of course, in the meantime, I needed to make a living, and it was pretty much impossible. I couldn't find a job at doing anything. The only gig that I was able to find was kind of like occasional, and it was washing dishes in the students' bar in the Flemish University, and that was because I had a friend there, and he was able to hook me one night here and there, but it was nothing really, really. Yeah, it was not enough. That's actually when I decided that I wanted to work as a tour guide, since the only languages that I managed, or my only personal access, were the fact that I spoke English and Spanish, and I thought that I was going to make a good tour guide. So I went to some tourism agencies to see if they wanted to hire me as a tour guide. They all rejected me because I had no experience, which is true. Actually, I before that I never worked as a tour guide a day in my life.
So how
Uh,
did the tour guide idea come up? Like, where did you get this idea from?
Well, actually, when I backpacked Europe, before moving to Belgium, I traveled around Europe and I traveled around South America. And I saw a lot of these people. Actually, I joined a lot of tours myself. And I thought that it was a cool job. It's kind of like yeah, when you see someone being a bartender or a DJ, it's one of those things that I thought, like, yeah, it's a cool job. And I thought indeed that once, I mean, when I came to Belgium and I saw that there were not enough people providing touristic services. I thought, maybe here's where I can find a job. And of course, I was considering the fact that I speak English and Spanish, so I was thinking the fact that, well, maybe I can. It's gonna be easy, since the only thing you need to be a tour guide is just to be kind of like outgoing, charismatic, and speak whatever language is needed. So, but honestly, it came from my own travel experiences. The idea of working as a tour guide.
Okay, so all of the companies rejected you, and so then what happened?
Well, I decided I was going to create my own service. I cannot say that at the moment I thought of creating a company because that would not be true. I just thought, okay, I'm gonna try to find my own people. And at the beginning, when I started my business, I really thought like, okay, I need only like 5 to 7 people a day, and that's enough. Like that's my biggest market. It was just 5 to 7 people a day, and with that, I could make enough to pay the rent. It was kind of like my most urgent thing at the moment, and then after that, anything was going to be amazing. But actually, even doing that was not difficult. My marketing idea was to actually go to 3 hostels that I figured out were on the way to the city center of Brussels. So I would pass by those hostels every single day after my French course in the morning. So I would get out of my French classes and I will pass by these hostels and I will talk to the receptionist and I will say, hey, look, if you have anyone that wants to do a tour in Brussels, just tell them that in 15, 20 minutes I'm going to be in the main square and they can join me there. And since, of course, I was not even, I didn't even know how good my service was going to be because I never did a tour before. I wasn't even able to charge an amount, a specific amount. So I actually told people to just give me a tip. It was a system that I also saw while traveling. I saw a lot of tour guides that were doing tours for tips. So I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. So I will pass by these receptions. It was 3 hostels specifically. I will talk to the receptionist and then tell them like, yeah, if you have someone, just tell them to come with me. Or if someone is already here, just I will kind of like pick them up and take them to the main square, and basically, yeah, I will provide a service for tips. But initially, I didn't have anyone for like 2 weeks. I think I will pass
So for
by these
two
places
weeks, you went every day to the
every
hostels to ask
yeah
if someone wanted to come to your tours.
yeah for at least, if
Wow.
not more, but for at least 2 weeks there was no one. And I actually think that out of the pity that the receptionist felt for me, is that I got my first client. Like I do imagine that at some point they say, okay, let's try to make an effort to promote this guy and send him someone. And indeed, that happened one day. I passed by a hostel, and then there was a couple, only 2 people. That was my first tour ever. It was only 2 people, a Brazilian couple. They did the tour with me. They gave me a tip, and to be honest, it felt like I made, I don't know, 100,000 euros when it was actually just a tip from a couple. But it really, really felt good. It was a really, really amazing moment when I got. And then this couple came back to the hostel. They really enjoyed it. They talked very well to the receptionist. And next day there were other 2 peoples, and then three, and then four, the five, six, seven, eight, and then groups kept growing. And just few months after that, I was walking every day with groups of 15, 20 people, which was much more than what I projected initially.
And so these people, you did. So did you stick to your marketing strategy of getting them from hostels, or did you diversify your marketing channels?
No, I actually did the hostel thing for a long time. I did it for at least 2 years. Because the first year I was still doing my French course, so actually that was working very well. I would finish my classes in the morning, I would go out, pass by the hostel, pick up some people, and do my tours, and it was great. And to be honest, I was making a living just very few months after I started. So that was kind of like my first idea. I think the light bulb moment was one day. Normally, what I would do is like I will arrive to the meeting point, and there were some people that were already coming with me because the idea is that the hostels were telling the travelers, okay, he's gonna pass by, so just wait for him. He's gonna pass by here, and you
Oh
can go
yeah.
with him. You know. But then there were some people that will meet me at the meeting point because, of course, I created a website, very basic WordPress, bad looking website. And then some people, and I started printing like some flyers to live in the hostel. But basically, the idea was I will pass by these hostels and then you can meet me at the meeting point. And one day I arrived to the meeting point. I think it was summer 2015. Yeah, it was summer 2015, early, probably late spring 2015. And I was carrying always kind of like a little cardboard sign with me that will say free walking tour, because actually these services that are based on tips, they are known as free walking tours. They're called free for the idea that people are free to pay whatever they want. So put out this sign that say, okay, free walking tour, and suddenly there's like a mass of people that comes toward me, and there were probably 70 people in total. And I thought,
So wait.
wow.
So did these people know you, or they were just intrigued because they saw you at that moment?
No, the thing is that since I started passing by every day, then I think the hostels, they started promoting me more actively, in the sense that they knew that I was providing a nice service. People were being happy, they were coming back. Actually, hostels started doing it kind of like an extra service of the hostel. Like we have breakfast, we have I don't know, free water, and a guy that passed by every day to give you a walking tour of the city.
Okay.
So in this sense, people were entering to the hostel, so they were telling him, yeah, okay, you can either wait for the guy now, or if you know, otherwise you can meet him later. He starts at I think it was at 2 p.m. at the time. He starts at 2 p.m. In this point. But then also other people started paying attention to the fact that I was the only one, because that's actually one of the reasons why I picked that moment. There was no touristic activities in Brussels happening in the afternoon. There were other tour activities, but all of them happening in the morning at like 11 a.m., something like that. Besides that, there was nothing to do in the afternoon. Like if you enter the tourist information office, they will tell you no. If you want a tour, you have to wait until tomorrow morning. And I think my theory is, I never asked, but my theory is that the tourist information office picked up the fact that I was passing by every afternoon. So then they will tell people, okay, there's a guy that he comes here apparently at around 2 p.m. and he starts tours. Maybe you can ask him. And I think that's how people started getting more and more at the meeting point, more than the people that I was bringing from the hostel. But then at some point when the season was starting in 2015, that's the moment when kind of like the pack showed up. And that was the moment when I realized, yeah, maybe I can do something with this.
And you started in which year? That was how many years after you had done your first tour?
I started in December 2013, and
Okay.
I worked on my own through the whole 2014. And then it was by kind of like March 2015 when I got the idea of creating a proper company and start building up a team.
Okay. So basically, you have this huge group of 70 people like coming towards you, and you're very happy, probably. And then you think,
Yeah.
okay, maybe I need to scale this thing.
Yes, exactly. That's how it happened. And basically, my strategy was, well, I cannot multiply myself, so I'm gonna look for people similar to me, people that want to make some money, people that are charismatic, people that speak languages. And then I was still very active as a tour guide. So what I would say, I would look for people that wanted to work with me, and then I would gain a commission on the people that I was sending to them. So, for example, if there will be 70 people that will show up, well, I will get my group of 30, 35, and then I will send the rest to the others, and then they will pay me a commission for every single person that I will send to them. Since it's a tour that was working on tips, they will pay me a fixed commission, and whatever they made on top of the tip, I'm sorry, whatever they made on top of the commission was their own profit, let's say. And that was the business model that I started with.
That makes sense. So you were providing them with tourists, and they were entertaining the tourists and then making money. They were basically buying tourists of you.
Exactly. That was literally what they were doing. Yeah.
And so you started hiring like this first like one, two, three people, and then
Yes.
what happened?
Well, I started with my first team. I think, yeah, we were probably three, four, something like that. And then we started
So did
growing. We
you?
were
Well, okay. So first question: where did you find these people?
Facebook. I went directly on Facebook. I posted on group of yeah, expats, travelers, students, whatever. Like, this is an activity. You need to be charismatic, easygoing. And actually, it's funny because, yeah, I didn't have an office. I didn't have anything, so I would just meet them in like cafes or something to, be a little bit serious. Like I always played the role from the beginning. Like, yeah, I'm trying to build something, and we're trying to provide services and blah blah blah. But in reality, it was just me. I do have to say that at the beginning, it was kind of more like we're just like friends. We're literally just like young guys, friends, hanging around with tourists. We'll finish the tours and then we'll ask the tourists, okay, what do you want to do? You want to go drinking? You want to go party? You're going to enjoy? Like at the beginning, it was pretty much that. But then at some point, it started growing and growing, and that's the moment when it started becoming more organized in terms of the team and management and all of that. But at the beginning, I would just look for people in Facebook that wanted to make an extra pocket money and wanted to have fun while doing it.
And so these people, did you train them, or did they have any experience? Like, how did it work?
No, no. Actually, I never ever, even until today, I never asked for previous experience to become a tour guide. It's always welcome and it's always better, but I never asked because I had no experience when I started. So it would be a little bit, I'll be a little bit hypocrite if I ask someone else experience to tell them that they can be a good tour guide, because I was a great tour guide. I consider myself, to be honest, one of the best tour guides that ever walked the center of Brussels. And yeah, I mean, I think there's enough proof of that. And I never, yeah, I never had experience prior to that. The only thing that I had was the will to work and the energy and the charisma, and that's actually the only thing that I was looking. I was looking for people that, I would meet them in a cafe, and it's something that you can feel instantly. When someone is fun, someone is charismatic, is energetic, is always
Yeah.
smiling. To me, that was it. That was the cue. You're in. I will invite them to join my tours. Like, come. I'm here every day. Come as many times as you want to learn the script. I can tell you. I can coach you. Blah blah. And then they will make their own way, and they ended up becoming excellent tour guides. Actually, some of them way better than me. I can say that as well. But yeah, they started
So
with
they
no
just
experience.
learn coming to your tours. They came maybe what 5, 6 times, and then started doing their own tours as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, this is fascinating. So at that point, did you already have a company or not really?
No, at that point, I didn't really have a company. The Actually, the moment when I established was already in 2016. And this is funny because I take that decision in 2016. We are getting masses, but I mean like crowds, huge crowds in Brussels. Like, we couldn't handle it. The team was overworked. Like, yes, we cannot keep working at this rhythm. There's too many people every day. And then I say like, okay, I'm gonna find a way. I kind of like took one of the tour guys to help me in the management, to be kind of like a part-time manager for me, to help me organize the schedule, organize that everything will go better. Because the thing is that prior to that, we would just go, see who show up, and that was it. It could be a big group, but we had no kind of like schedule, or if there's X amount of people to take these, or there was no organization at all.
No, no structure
So
whatsoever.
no structure whatsoever, exactly. And then I take one tour guide to be a part-time manager, and that's the moment when we decide to organize things like correctly. And that was begin end of 2015, kind of like after the summer of 2015, when I realized that we had an amazing summer. But most importantly, I realized that it wasn't slowing down, because you normally have the summer season, but then October, November, at least in Europe in tourism, it tends to slow down because it's winter. But it was not slowing down; it was just growing and growing, and more people coming and coming. So that's when I realized that, yeah, probably I need to do it. So I planned that to be okay. Beginning of 2016, we're a properly registered company and all of that. But then, yeah, the terrorist attack happened in Brussels, and that kind of like, well, really screw up my plans. But actually, on the other side, it really gave me more motivation to do something different, to start other cities, because I've really learned that I was actually paranoid that I was going to lose what I had. So I thought like, okay, I cannot lose this. But I knew that Brussels was now an empty city because no one was coming to Brussels.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to start opening in other cities, and that's when it really became kind of like a company, because I already had a manager. I said, look, I need someone to take care of Brussels. I'm going to create tours in other cities in Belgium. And so out of that tragic episode, actually, yeah, I had the motivation to go and do it, and that kind of repeated again later. So yeah, I guess it's a pattern that I had in my case.
So it's very interesting because when you wanted to start as a tour guide, no companies wanted to hire you, so you built your own. And then when terrorist attacks happened in Brussels, there were no more tourists, so you decided to go see like in other places. So these obstacles, these setbacks, have actually made you stronger and bigger, right?
Yeah, totally. And actually, I don't know because I think uh, I I will be lying by saying that okay, it came out of encouragement or like like I had a vision. To be honest, it came out of desperation. Like I was desperate. Like I don't want to lose this thing, and so I had no choice. And it's funny because I think the moments that I performed the best was the moments when there was no other choice. Like I had to find a way to make more tours because Brussels was suddenly gone. So I started everyone, all the people that were planning to come to Belgium, they were skipping Brussels. They were going to cities like Bruges, Antwerp, and Ghent. So I started opening tours there, and we were actually the first tour ever operating in Antwerp because I remember that when we opened there, the tourist information office, they were like, "Oh, finally we have tour guys here, like doing tours." Like, thanks God, like no one ever wanted to offer things here. Same in Ghent, not the same in Bruges because Bruges had always been very touristic and there were already tours happening
Yeah.
there. But even though we stepped in and we built services there, and and yeah, so actually then we became really big in Belgium. So then again, the team became bigger. So then I had already proper management. So there was already someone taking care of the management in Brussels and then someone taking care of the management of the other cities. We got an office space thanks to a friend. And yeah, actually things started looking more like a company.
Okay. And then eventually you're gonna go to other cities in other countries. You're gonna keep on expanding.
Yes, and actually that's a funny story also related to what we just talked. Because the thing that happened is that in 2018 I had kind of like an existential moment when I decided that I suddenly wanted to build I kind of like wanted to build a software service or like a startup or something like that. And it happened because I did a coding bootcamp that's called the Wagon. I did that one, and then I had this idea to build like an incredible app to manage the tour guys. I actually
So wait,
wanted
wait,
to
wait, wait,
wait.
because it's a little bit weird. You there like having this very no code, no technology whatsoever tourism company, and you're gonna go do a coding bootcamp. What happened?
The thing is that I mean, initially I needed to build something to manage my team. I knew that I needed like a digital tool or something. I
You
went
needed
asking,
software for your company.
yeah, I needed software to scale. Or at least to manage, mostly to manage correctly, to optimize, that would be the right word. And then I went asking, so developers and people like that. I knew nothing about tech, and of course they were charging me like stupid amount of money for doing something that in my head was simple. Like like I just need this to make a calendar and to make this other thing. And it's not
Yeah.
that complex. I'm not trying to land a rocket in the moon. I'm just trying to build like a basic software. Like, why is it so expensive? It didn't make sense to me. So I thought, again, I'm gonna build it myself. So I went to this boot camp, and then I realized that indeed I was not able to build it myself, but I understood better how it could be built. So the thing that happened is that I built this software for me, but then I applied to a startup incubator in Paris that is called The Family, and they like the idea. They like the idea of the software. They like the concept. Of course, they like the story. They like the fact that I was someone that came with nothing, and out of nowhere I was building something, and we're already big in Belgium and things like that. So of course, in this type of incubator, they don't look only at the product; they also look at the entrepreneur behind it. But it was a great decision in terms of personal experience, but it was a bad decision in terms of business because I lost focus. I was growing, indeed, as you said, a non-tech touristic agency, and then I suddenly was kind of like playing around with this software thing, and then this incubator and all of that. So that was an idea that actually kind of like wear off after a few months, especially since I realized that it was not going to work. And but then due to this lack of attention that I paid to the business for several months, the business started doing really bad. That was already year 2018. The business started doing bad. My overhead was bigger because I had more people working at the office, so I had more salaries to pay. I had more tour guys. At the time, the team of tour guys kind of like was around 16, 18 people pretty much full time that they were counting on me to provide them with people, with tourists, so they can make a living out of that. So I had major responsibilities, and I lost focus. So the business started going bad, and there was massive competition. When I told you that I was the only tour happening in the afternoon, I can tell you like that changed drastically. Like suddenly there were like five, six, seven companies offering touristic services.
So when did these companies appear?
They started appearing after the terrorist attacks. I mean, when Brussels recovered after the terrorist attacks, that was in 2017, is when they started appearing. And also, pretty much, I think my own example gave the idea that you didn't need much to actually be good and at providing touristic services, which in some way is true. You know, you just needed a group of people, some basic advertisement. In our case, we use orange umbrellas, you know, so for people to recognize you, and that's it. You're ready to go. You have your touristic company, basically. And then, I think it was, yeah, but um, in the summer of 2017 is when they started showing up, appearing. And by the summer of 2018 is when the competition got brutal. Like, yeah,
So
it was
all of these companies were eating away your customers.
indeed. And I was not working hard enough to increase the pie, at least for myself. So
Yeah.
indeed, what was happening was that they were eating away my customers. And that's something that I realized already, like by the end of 2018, is when I thought like, okay, wow, this is bad. And at some point, I was really, again, desperation kicked in, and I realized that if we keep going this way, it's just going to be a matter of months that I'm going to lose my services, and basically I will have to either cut down the company, if not shut it down completely.
Yeah.
And but luckily for me, this tool that I built, in this time that I spent building this tool, I spent time and money, a lot of money, building this thing, which is one of the typical entrepreneurial mistakes. You know, you focus a lot of building a product when you don't even know if people are actually going to use it. I
Yeah.
spent a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time building this product, and it's going to be the perfect product and all of that.
Yeah.
But when I realized that no one was going to pay for it, I thought, well, I already have this product, so we can actually use it ourselves. And indeed, it ended up becoming probably the best investment that I did, because this tool allowed me to start creating touristic services everywhere in Europe. And at the beginning was also very, very rough, because my strategy was quite crazy, to be honest. So, for example, I decided that the first city I was going to try was going to be Luxembourg. So I said, okay, for 2 months, every weekend I'm gonna go to Luxembourg, back and forth, and I'm gonna do the tours myself,
Yeah.
because I didn't have any money to do marketing or anything. So it was only me, and I would go there until I was able to kind of like convince people to be the tour guides there, and we were going to manage them through the software that I built. So that's what happened, and for at least 1.5 months, every weekend from Friday to Sunday, I will ride 7 hours in a train back and forth from Luxembourg, and I will do the tour. So I'll do like 2.5 hours to Luxembourg. That was kind of like my office hour to work in the administration. I will do the tours two times during the day. So I will do 10:30 until like 4 p.m. and then 3.5 hours back. That was also more office time, and that was my way to work. Those were my weekends for at least 1 month and a half. And I remember when I shared that story with the two main managers that were working for me at the time. One of them, Ava, you knew her. She said that that was a crazy idea and it was not going to work. And I was like, okay. That she's my kind of like my right hand on the business, and she doesn't believe it's gonna happen. That discouraged me a little, but I had to try. And then the other manager, he told me that's actually the great idea. That's actually the best idea, but I still don't think you're gonna pull it off. I think it's a good idea, but you're not gonna be able to pull it off. And I don't know. I just had to try, so I started doing that. 1.5 months, we're fully operating in Luxembourg. And then I thought, well, I can do the same. So I started going to Frankfurt, but I would not go back and forth. I would go and spend the weekends in Frankfurt. So I'll go to a hostel and stay in the hostel, then do tours during the weekend. And then it was funny because even the tourists would come back to the hostel and was like, but you were the tour guide, so how come you're staying? And I
But
was,
you're also a tourist as a tour
yeah,
guide.
exactly. And I will do this while I was, because the thing is that I needed, in order for me to convince new tour guys, I needed to prove that we had a service. So it's
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
You,
like
you
this.
need to build like the first base of customers
Yeah.
and to prove that the business would work.
And then that actually turned things around completely. And by mid 2019, we were already in Lisbon, Stockholm, Florence, Bologna, Luxembourg,
But wait. Okay.
Frankfurt.
Let's. I have a question. It's insane because you're telling me that in Brussels the competition was cutthroat, but then you're expanding in all of these cities. Like, does it mean there were no competition, or somehow you got very, very good very fast?
No, indeed, um I understood that the idea was actually to look for the open ocean opportunity, the blue ocean opportunity, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And actually, what I did is that I would look into this city, but I would look what was not being done. So, to give you an example, in Lisbon, if you walk in the city center of Lisbon, there will be like 10 companies offering tours. But there was this beautiful neighborhood that is called Belém that was completely empty. That's where I opened my tour. There was this other small city right not far from Lisbon that is called Sintra. No tours there, so that's where we opened the tours. So I will go to these cities, but I will only open activities that were not being done by anyone to take advantage of this kind of like novelty or being the first mover in those activities.
Okay. So what you did with Antwerp, you did it again in all of these cities, going somewhere else.
Exactly. So actually, a lot of people thought on that. Thought that I was going to the city, and they were like, "Yeah, but how come you're gonna open a tour in Lisbon, for example?" But yeah, I was not providing a tour of the center of Lisbon or the most known neighborhoods, like Baixa or Barrio Alto. I was not doing none of that. I was doing the out of the track activities that were
Yeah.
really popular, and I was the only one doing them.
Wow. So you expanded in Frankfurt, Luxembourg, Lisbon.
Yeah, Florence, Palermo, Bologna, Stockholm, Oslo. Plus, we had still Brussels and the other major cities here. I think, yeah, and Ljubljana, also in Slovenia, because my main manager, she was from Slovenia, and she was like, "Yeah, we can do it there. I know the people. We can start there." And yeah, I think I'm not forgetting anything. I think those were the ones that we opened that summer.
Okay, so you went
And
full international. That was the summer of 2018?
2019. That was already
2019.
2000, and that was the best year we ever had. I was super proud. My team was incredibly motivated. We were hiring more people, of course, increasing the people working at the company, and it was yeah, it was definitely the best year I had. It was probably the year I worked the most because I was in charge of opening all of those locations like myself. It's not like I send people. No, no, no. I was traveling, going from plane to plane, from city to city, not stop, sometimes without sleeping, like just going, going, going because I, I knew that was my opportunity. And actually, we stopped opening more locations because at some point I said, I just cannot keep doing it. Like at some point, I was really exhausted because
Yeah.
we had plans into going to Paris and London. And at some point, I said, I'm sorry, guys, like let's pull it off. Like let's stop here. Let's try to now manage what we already got, so we
Yeah.
don't bite more than we can chew. And then next year, 2020 is going to be another great year, another opportunity to expand and do even more.
And then
And then we all know
COVID.
what happened. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, of course, 2020 was the opposite of that. 2020 pretty much hit us with all its force, and yeah, to be honest, I lost. I mean, being now after some time, and that I can mention it very not easily, but I can mention it without any problems. Yeah, I lost everything pretty much in 2020. Um, in terms of the business, what was the most valuable thing for me that I lost was my team. Actually, everyone in the team were people that were working with me for years. The tour guys were people that were working with me for years, and seeing that just falling apart was a big, big, big shot. Um, So yeah, when COVID hit, of course, all the uncertainty. I think I always say that I passed through all the episodes of grief. You know, like at the beginning, I was complete denial, like yeah, guys, no worries, this is okay. In 1 month, we're gonna be back. Everything's gonna be fine. And then I was completely desperate, like no, it's the end of the world. We're gonna die. Like it's over, everything. And then it was acceptance. You know, at some point you say, well, that's it. That's business. That's life. Um, I remember that I talked to my team and I said, look, I can try to rebuild this if you are with me, but I understood, like, for some of them already decided to move on, and those that were kind of like hesitant, they were like, yeah, but we have to start from scratch, and like we already worked really hard helping you grow this, and start everything again. It felt like a really, really exhausting task, because at the first time it was exhausting. It was really exhausting. Like we gave it everything, and do it all over again. It was too much, and at the end, yeah, we kind of like uh, went different ways. And of course, I kept my company. I kept it more now as a kind of like a muse. I don't know if you have this concept of a muse. It's really famous. It was Tim Ferriss who mentioned this. When you have a business that you kind of have like a interesting relationship with, but it's not it's not your partner. It's not your wife. It's just
A
a
side
muse.
hustle.
A side hustle indeed. So I kind of like packed it into that. I closed every single destination that was not bringing immediate money or yeah profit.
Okay, okay. So
And
wait. Let's come back behind a bit. So
yeah,
your team is saying, okay, sorry, but we don't want to rebuild it again,
yeah,
and so you don't rebuild it. So you decide not even to hire a new team to rebuild it again. You decide to transform the business. Is that right?
exactly. I decided to transform the business so it can become a business that generates me the most money with the least effort possible.
I like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So then, what do
And
you do then?
well, actually, I thought at the beginning I was completely lost because I passed through this phase that like I at the beginning I thought I am I am my business, like I had this thing like now since I don't have my business, I'm nothing, because I don't have a professional career. I never finished my studies in university. Yeah, I'm not. I can basically say, well, I'm just the same desperate guy that arrived here with a with at this point I could speak French, but like some languages, and that was it. And then I thought, well, no, actually, I have experience. I've learned a lot throughout the years, and I can start again. I can start fresh, and I can start doing something new. And that's the moment when I realized, okay, well, if I have something again from scratch, what would I do? And in this search, because I started kind of like a searching period, like a searching moment, I stumbled onto this book that is called Homo Deus, and it's a book that talks about the future, how pretty much AI and biotechnology is gonna impact the future of humanity. And I don't know, it looked to me like a revelation. I was stunned of the facts and the concepts that were being taught on that book, and I decided, well, I'm gonna jump into that. I'm gonna jump into data science and AI, and that's the way I went. I started doing a course. I took a long
Yeah,
course. I
but
just finished a
wait. But I mean, what happened to Viva then before? So
ah
you decided
no,
to make it like a business where you could operate
yes,
with the
indeed.
least
So
amount of effort possible.
with the
So
least
what
amount
did
of
you
effort.
do
So
exactly?
I exactly what I did is the math. So I was thinking first there were some cities that immediately went dead. So okay, here there's. I was thinking how much effort I need to rebuild it.
Yeah.
Rebuild this city. So it would take probably a lot of effort. I thought, okay, this is not doable at the moment. Then out of those cities that were operating, I thought, okay, in which cities I have the teams that are the most self-sufficient, that require the least amount of effort from me in order to manage them. So those that were really complicated, that had really complicated agendas and all of that, I shut them down. And then after I kind of like was left with the most self-sufficient locations, I went through, okay, which are the ones that bring the most profit. And out of the ones that brought the most profit, those are the ones that I kept. The other ones I shut down. And then now I have few destinations that are very profitable, self-sufficient, and yeah, that's kind of like my side gig.
So you're still bringing tourists to the guides, but it's only online.
Yes, exactly. Only online. I don't do local marketing. I do everything online, and yeah, I still, of course, I don't bring the same amount that I was doing before, but keeping in mind that I'm the only one managing and partially managing, to be honest, uh, it pays off for the amount of time and effort that I put in.
So you went from a company that had like what 25, 30 guides and three managers to being just part time you.
Yes, exactly. And mathematically, I mean, if we look at the numbers, it is more profitable now than it has ever been before, in terms of how much effort you put in and how much net profit I get out. But yeah, of course, in terms of gross revenue, it's very small in comparison to what it was. But it was a decision, and this is the thing, because I do have to say that despite the fact that I gave it my all to my business at the beginning, um, it happened kind of like organically. I never decided to be a tour guy, or I never had the plan to grow a company in the touristic sector. It was never part of my plan. I never
Yeah.
planned to do beyond Brussels. I never planned to do beyond Belgium. I never in my wildest dream would imagine that my services will be happening in I don't know, not even in Luxembourg, which is right next door. No, 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 no. Everything happened very organically.
Everything
So
happened because it had to happen. Like somehow life, the terrorist attack on one hand and COVID on the other, forced it to happen.
exactly, exactly. So everything happened because it had to happen. But at this moment, after that, if I would have wanted to reveal everything, of course, I could have done it. I have no doubt in my mind because I had the background, the experience, the connections, and I just needed to jump into it 100%. But to be honest, on the other side, I also share some of this feeling that the people working with me share. The fact that okay, I have to start everything from scratch all over again, and create a new team, build these connections, like things that happen kind of like magically throughout the years. I now need to make them happen. And my question was, well, if I have to put that much effort into creating something new, would I do a touristic company? And I thought, well, no, actually, I don't think so. If I had to start everything from scratch, I would probably go for something bigger, more scalable, something that doesn't require the amount of luck that I had, something that I can control more. And that's why I took the decision to keep it as it is now.
Okay. So then you read Amadeus from Yuval Noah Harari, and you're like,
Yes.
wow, data, this is awesome.
Yeah, I realized that's the future. I first realized that actually, well, data is everywhere now. I actually think on the concept that we are kind of like in the exact same period as the oil rush. In the that was probably, I don't know, early 50s or 40s. I don't have the history right, but I'm working on it. I already ordered a book to learn the history of oil, to try to understand the history of data. And but I realize that yeah, data is everywhere. People or companies some of them are already very aware of the value that data has, but most of them don't. And I think that's the period in which we're living now. Like people are now coming to realize, companies are coming to realize how valuable data is, and there's a lot of, going on in that sector. And that's only talking about data science, data analytics, or data engineering. Going a step forward, AI, machine learning is also growing exponentially, and there's even more opportunities there to be explored. And I don't know, I saw it kind of like a revelation. I think it's fascinating. The more I read about it, the more in love I felt with the subject, and that's where I decided to go.
Okay. And so you decide to learn data engineering.
Yeah, actually, I went into a data science boot camp, very intensive, 40 plus hours a week, like full time, complete full time, because 40 plus is the mandatory plus all the hours that you have to put on the side to learn and to train and all that. And but yeah, the path is pretty much that. You start learning basics of programming, then you go through data analytics, data engineering, and then after that you build up to more complex subjects like data science and machine learning.
So okay, and so now you're going to start a new career as a data engineer.
Yes, I'm definitely going to start a new career in data. I don't know per se if I'm going to stay because the thing is that there's so many things to do. Like you can go from being doing analysis, engineering, advisory, consulting. I really don't know, and but that's actually precisely why I want to jump in, because the first thing I realize is that the more I see, I know how much there is yet to learn. So after this bootcamp, I got the opportunity to work in a project for a really big company, and they're inviting me as a data engineer in this project. And then if everything works well, I would like to work in that company. I'll be an employee for as long as I learn the subject and I figured out exactly what I want to do. And definitely and most likely, I will then try to see where there's an opportunity for me to do something on my own.
Okay, so you still want to remain an entrepreneur. No 9 to 5 job for you, but at least not forever.
No, 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 no. I think entrepreneurship give you one of the most empowering feelings that you can have. It's really, I mean, and it's not only like the overall. It's not like the end results of it. It's actually the moments, the you know the challenge by challenge that you tackle and tackle and tackle that feel just amazing. And I do understand like a when you are an entrepreneur, you sometimes you feel like you can take over the world. It's crazy, but like something small as solving a problem for a client, and you feel like yes, I can. If I can do this, I can be the next Elon Musk. I don't know. And
Yeah.
it's far fetched. It's completely far fetched and unrealistic. But the feeling that you get, I don't think if that's something that you can get as an employee. And once you taste that, you just want to keep feeling that way, you
Yeah.
know. And to be honest, also on the other side, at least in my experience, being an entrepreneur is hard. It's really really hard. Like I love this phrase that says, like uh, anyone can be an entrepreneur, but not everyone can be an entrepreneur. So basically, what it says is like, yeah,
Yeah.
in theory, everyone could, but the reality is that
In practice.
yeah, and you need to build a thicker skin. You need to learn how to deal with stress and all this stuff because it's rough. It's difficult. It's difficult, and but then when you get out of those difficult moments, you feel a bliss that is very difficult to find doing something else.
So it's been 10 years that you're in Brussels now, right?
Yes, 10 years.
Yeah. So what's the best piece of advice that you wish someone had told you 10 years ago or that you have already received?
Well, actually, if well, it's actually a great question. If there's a piece of advice that I would have liked to receive, would have been, I think would have been just move faster. Because in my case, I always had to wait for the desperate moment in order for me uh, to do great business move. When I didn't need to wait for that to happen, I could have expanded faster. I could have done so. I think in that sense, I would have kind of like I think that would have been a good advice for me. Of course, looking backwards, I understand that everything happened for a reason and happened at the right time. But if someone would have kind of like, if I would have appreciated an advice, would be something like that, like like move faster or don't wait to be in the bad in order for you to come out with a great solution. Like try to anticipate that.
Yeah.
And if there's some advice that I would give to someone, is just try, because the reality is that every single great, how to say, great jump, or I don't say, or growth, or whatever you want to call it, that happened in my business happened the moment I decided to try something different. The moment everyone thought, okay, we're just a Brussels company, and then I thought, what if we try to go to other cities? And then when we had this mindset of, no, we're just a Belgian company, and I thought, what if we try, just try. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is that we stay a Belgian company. That's the worst that can happen.
Yeah.
But once you actually pass that barrier, because it's a mental barrier, it truly is. Once once we pass that mental barrier, it's like a new world open, and it's like, you want me to open a tour where? Buenos Aires, Argentina. I can do it. Like once you just break this mental barrier, it truly is. So if there's an advice that I would give to someone, it's just try. If you have an idea, if you already have a business, if you already are an entrepreneur, but you're hesitant about something that you think might bring results, just try. Measure what is your downside. Of course, don't bet the business on one idea. In my case, as I said, like if I would, one of the reasons why I decided to go for it in the story that I told you about Luxembourg, I decided to go myself because the worst thing that could have happened is that I lost my time. I was not sacrificing anything from the business. I was not sacrificing any money from the current business, but I will try this new idea. So measure what's your downside, sacrifice the least possible from whatever you already have working on, but just go and try. And if you fail, at least you're gonna bring back some lessons, and you also know what doesn't work, which sometimes is very useful.
What an amazing piece of advice. This is the end of the interview. So, where can people find you? What's your website if they want to book a tour through Viva and support you in your data engineering adventure?
Well, if you're interested into the tourism business, just go to vivastour.com. That's actually my website, and you can find activities there in many different destinations. Some of them provided directly by my team, some of them provided by some partners, but very likely you're gonna find something there. And if you want to follow me in my new data science adventure, I think the best place is LinkedIn. It's not a place where I was hanging out a lot before, but since I entered the data engineering world, I realized that there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of data scientists and machine learning engineers that are sharing great things, and I hope at some point be one of them that are also sharing interesting ideas, experiments, or sharing content in general.
Okay, so your LinkedIn will be linked to the article and to the podcast episode as well, so people can go there and follow you for any interesting content you're going to post, I'm sure, very, very soon.
There you go, perfect. In any case, for people that are hearing, the LinkedIn is Yass Barona, so yeah, you can find me like that.
Okay, we will link it to the episode and the article. Okay, Yasser, thank you so much for this interview. Very, very, very interesting, inspiring, and well, we hope to have you on the podcast again once you become a very famous data scientist and building your own startup. And can't wait to learn the lessons that we will learn at the time.
Well, no, first of all, thank to you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure for me to have a conversation with you. I've mentioned that, and we're really good friends. We know each other for a while, and we share a lot of common thoughts. So yeah, it will always be my pleasure to share my stories or whatever I have to share with you.
Amazing. Thank you very much. See ya.
Thank you, man. See you.